What's up, guys? Today I'm going to give you my wrap-up video to my 6-week mini cut diet. And I'm going to give you my conclusions and my findings about what it takes to be in a serious calorie deficit for a few weeks at a time. Before I go into that, I've got a free report. It's called 7 Steps to Shred It. If you are interested in getting lean and getting shredded, you can head down below, click the first link in the description, and do not forget to subscribe to this goddamn channel. Take your ass down below, subscribe to this channel. Let me tell you about my mini cut. So first off, let's talk about why I went into a mini cut in the first place. And sadly, a reason that, just to be candid with you, I was fat. I was out of shape. And this happens often. And as a matter of fact, during the course of a year, I'll usually get fat and then get into shape, and get fat and get into shape. As most people out there who are watching this video probably feel that they go through this yo-yo effect. And for me personally, that's disappointing, right? It's a reason that I would be ashamed of myself, and I was. I didn't feel good, and when I do that stuff, I don't feel good. And it can happen for a variety of reasons. Maybe it's because of the way the winter occurs around New York, and we're not, it's just cold in the winter and people don't have to take off their clothes as much, right? Could be repressed feelings and emotions from childhood. It's probably a combination of a bunch of stuff, but as a fitness professional, it was definitely a big reason for me to be disappointed in myself, and it's not really acceptable. So I cut my calories from 3,300, which was roughly my maintenance level, although I was probably eating a little bit more than that at time, but calculated mathematically or in the equation, it was 3,300, right? The first cut that I made was to 2,500, so I immediately cut 800 calories out of what I was eating. Okay, and then there was like a second phase. So the first 4 weeks, I cut to 2,500, which was a challenge within itself. And then the last 2 weeks, I cut to, I was at 2,600, and then I cut to 2,300 calories. I lost a bunch of body fat, so it was very effective. Okay, I lost a bunch of fat. I lost roughly 15 to 18 pounds. So one of the biggest things that happens when you cut calories to an extreme level is you're gonna deal with hunger and cravings. And that's the biggest part of being lean, because if you're gonna be in a calorie deficit, that's just what's gonna happen. You're gonna have to be hungry at times, and you're just gonna have to deal with that. So some of the best ways that you deal with that is to stay busy and get your mind off that stuff. That's like my main strategy, is just not to be thinking about it. Other people use different strategies. They might drink a glass of water, try to fill up on things like protein and high fiber. The best diets are ones that control hunger and control cravings. Unfortunately, when you're doing extreme calorie cuts, as you would as preparing for like a bodybuilding show, or doing a mini cut if you're just trying to get ready for a vacation or to get on the beach, whatever it might be, you're gonna deal with cravings more often than not. Sunday was my refeed day. That's when I would typically squeeze in more quote unquote cheat foods, so maybe pizza, maybe ice cream, and I was able to kind of squeeze that in because I knew what calorie amount that I was gonna eat to. So, and there are times when my refeed turned into more of like a cheat day. Again, I'm not a bodybuilder, so I felt like I could get away with that a little bit. I wasn't trying to get on stage, just trying to get more lean than I was, and I was effective at that. But again, a proper refeed not only helps deal with some of those cravings and some of the mental aspect of dieting and not having a lot of the foods that you want, so it kind of gives you a break from that. It also can help kickstart the fat loss process again, because your body becomes accustomed to being at, say, 2,600 calories. Okay, hey, I got this, show me something new. So when you refeed, you jump that back up, you can kind of kickstart that fat loss process a little bit by just tricking the body. Something to note is I did not eat out during the 6 weeks, and one of the biggest reasons I did not eat out is just because it would be harder for me to track. Like, it's harder to figure out how many calories are in the food that you might eat when you're out. It's also a little bit more temptation. I'm not saying if you're on a cut diet that you can't go out and enjoy foods and even eat healthy or appropriate to what your diet is, but it was just easier for me to avoid that situation and not eat out at all. Now that the 6-week cut diet is over and my calories are gonna come back up, It'll be easier for me to go out, maybe have a meal here or there with friends where where I'm not too worried about being at an extreme calorie deficit or hitting a certain mark. I'm be a little bit more leisure with those things, but I did not eat out. So I still had pizza, I still had ice cream, I still had chocolate. I had a lot of foods that are considered, whatever you want to say, unhealthy. But when you're gonna diet, just because you're cutting calories doesn't mean that you can't squeeze that stuff in, especially if you're hitting your appropriate markers, protein, fiber count. There's no reason why you can't squeeze in pizza, ice cream, whatever it is that you enjoy, right? One, because you probably go crazy if you don't do that stuff. Too much restriction is not gonna help. But again, a certain amount of your calories going towards those things, as long as you're hitting the appropriate marks, is fine. There were just certain foods that I wasn't eating as the diet progressed. So certain things I just had to pull out. Like I didn't drink a lot of milk just because it was like too much sugar and would shoot me over my carb goal quickly. What else? So I got it written down here. I would have hummus with my vegetables. That stuff I had to cut out. I would have this kind of maple quinoa mix. It's almost like a cereal that I had to cut out. Again, it would just shoot my carb count up fast to where I couldn't hit my protein goals. And you just kind of recognize as you diet, the less calories that you're gonna eat, the more you're gonna restrict yourself so you can burn more body fat, the more you'll have to kind of wrap your head around that the stuff that you're normally eating that you do enjoy, you may have to pull out of there for the time being until you finish that cut diet. Here's something else to think about. I didn't do not one ab exercise or even a dedicated core exercise. So not a plank, not a side plank in 6 weeks. I was pretty much lifting weights, upper, lower split. And here's the amazing thing. And I don't do a ton of ab work, a ton of core work, but abs. No ab work, no core work. So what does this tell you? The best way to see a defined midsection is to train hard, to do resistance training, and get your diet correct. So I did the first 4-week phase at 2,600 calories, and then I made a switch to 2,300 calories. And that's where things really became more challenging. So when I would typically get most of my macros and in through like 3 meals and then like a fourth, right? Or like a snack, a bigger snack. When I switched it to 2,300 calories, it's pretty much like 3 meals. And those snacks were some of the things that were like keeping me from going nuts. Those had to come out for the last 2 weeks, right? So it was pretty much like 3 meals I would find that I would get in my macros. Now, mind you, this is also in like an 8-hour window and not a 16-hour window. So I fast half the day. So I don't start eating till 12 or 1 o'clock. Some people start in the morning. So your process or the amount of meals that you might eat might be different. Another thing that I did is I recognized real quick, just one day I had just like a higher fat content and I felt it like, felt real lean the next day, and I was like, maybe I do better with higher fat than higher carb. So I ended up dropping my carbs down much lower and bringing my fats up a little bit higher, where usually you like to have those carbs in there, but I tend to do all right without them, because I was used to it over the last couple years. I would have a very low carb diet, so I was used to it. And sometimes, most people when you're cutting are probably gonna do a little bit better, even though you'll look at competitors, bodybuilders, figure competitors, they usually have their fats very low, but their carbs are real low also. But most people do better on a little bit higher fat, a little bit less carbs when you're trying to lose body fat. But I just found that as soon as I did that, I really started to really get tightened up. You'll learn a hell of a lot about nutrition just by tracking, and I know I learned a lot about the stuff I was intaking just by tracking it and entering and going, oh wait, there's too much, too many carbs here, or too many fats here. I need more protein in this particular area, and that's what you want. If you want to get lean, you want to get in better shape, you want to learn that stuff, and tracking it is the fastest way to be able to figure stuff out, even if you know nothing. This is where most people screw up, is you do a diet and then you have no plan of action moving forward. And the big reason that happens is because you don't have the goal anymore. It's where a lot of bodybuilders, a lot of figure competitors end up getting, getting too fat after their show. Is you shot for this thing, you aim for this point, in your timeline or this end point, and then you forget that you just have to stay in shape, you know? So what's the point of getting in really great shape and then losing it right after? So the big point for all you guys out there is you set a goal, you hit it. Before you hit that goal, before you get to that end point, start thinking about what the hell you're gonna do next. Okay, and that's what I've done this time, is like, what the hell am I gonna do next? What is my plan? What is my strategy to not only keep the gains that I have, but to continue to get even better afterwards and set a new goal? The biggest thing, okay, the biggest thing, you have that goal, you have your eyes set on that thing, you need to do that constantly. And I always recommend to people, like every 3 months, every quarter, every 90 days, you should have some sort of fitness goal. And if it's not to be a certain weight, to be a certain body fat percentage, it should be some type of performance goal. Maybe it's a race, you know, performance in the gym, how much you squat, how much you deadlift, you know, whatever it might be, how fast you run, you know, whatever. Okay, races, mud races, whatever it is. You need something to shoot for, and it needs to be in place before you finish the thing that you're doing right now. Otherwise, you're just gonna end up in no man's land, and more than likely revert back, and then you get that yo-yo. It's not what you want. So 6-week diet is done with, but the real work starts right now. So so I hope these things that I'm telling you guys and my experience help you out. I know this video is a little bit longer than normal, but I hope that you find some gems in here that can help you moving forward. If you really did enjoy it, head down below, leave a comment, tell me about your experiences, and of course tell me what you want to see next. Subscribe to this channel if you want 7 steps to shredded, where I talk about all this stuff. Okay, head down below, first link in the description, or hit one of these buttons right here. Guys, I'm Frank Daniels. Enjoy your day.